in our is Charlie Oak. Try one more time. Here to lead us in our invocation is Charlie Overs. Charlie is a retired obstetrician, past president, charter member of the 19th Society, and a Paul Harris Fellow. I'll lead it off. First, to introduce is fellow Rotarian Casey Meyer, who serves as the president. Casey has been involved with the Gardens since 2013 and has done it all: fundraising, growing awareness of the project throughout Louisville, developing programs, and building out the business model. Casey has worked with numerous startups and nonprofit organizations in her career. She was one of the founders of the Kentucky College of Art and Design. She's president to be our speaker next week. Building the school from an idea to a fully functioning Bachelor of Fine Arts program at Spalding University. Casey is a local native and has 2 grown children. Next is Greg Braun. What can you say about Greg that hasn't already been said before? Greg is a native of Louisville, serves as the vice chairman of the Waterfont Botanical Gardens and co-chairs the Resource Development Committee. Greg's a graduate of DePaul University, where he received a degree in mathematics and computers. Greg's early career was in banking, where he worked for Citizens Fidelity in the areas of commercial lending and business development. Later, he worked for the Bank of Louisville, where he established the bank's correspondent banking and dealer services division. And then in 1992, the entrepreneurial bug bit, and he founded Made in Louisville, Paper Chem, and Pig Properties, where he serves today as the CEO of all 3 companies. Greg is a director of the DePaul School, First Hour Grief, and Elder Serve. He's one of the most active Rotarians you'll ever meet, having served as past president in 2015, chair of the music committee, and led efforts spanning 4 years to establish the Louisville Not sign, which was just dedicated. Last but not least, Jamie is the Director of Horticulture and Education for Waterfront Botanical Gardens. Jamie joined the staff in 2018, and his role is to advance plant collections and displays. Also under his purview is to develop various educational offerings for people of all ages. Jamie oversees plant purchases, garden layouts, signage, and growing and maintaining all of the plantings, a huge responsibility. Jamie is a native of southern Minnesota. He's enjoyed gardening since his early years growing up on the prairie. His father owned a bee garden. Since the 1990s, Jamie has served on staff positions at Botanical Gardens in New York, Philadelphia, Denver, Charlotte, Savannah, and West Palm Beach. And he's been involved in historical estates in many of these cities. Let's welcome all 3 of our guests, and Greg will lead it off.
Thank you. First, let me do some introductions here before we start. I want to introduce the board of directors. John Solomon is our chair. John works as he's an attorney at Waterfont me. You should be proud to know that we have got a lot of Rotarians that are on the board. Matt Gardner, Kenesha Thompson, Gordon Brown, Scott Neff, myself, Casey Mayer, and in addition, board members that I think I saw here, Bob Hill, everybody knows Bob, Caroline Lusky, Gary Bennett, Valerie Smith. If I missed someone, I apologize. And we also have an unbelievable staff: Tiara Fowler, Allison Whitehouse, Elizabeth Chandler, John King, Tyree Hughes, Stephanie Greener, and Mary Miller. Could you all stand just to give these guys a round of applause? These are the guys that really made this thing happen. Thank you. Do you notice the James Bond type shades that just went down? Isn't that pretty cool? We've got a cool one. Okay, let's have a little fun. I want everybody to hold up their right hand. Come on. And reach under your chair, because 5 lucky recipients have got a free membership to Botanical Gardens for the next year. There we go. Hold them up. There we go. Did we all get them? Hey, there should be 5. If you got an empty chair next to you, you can check that out. And see me afterwards, you get a free membership to Botanical Gardens. So let's go back to 2015. We had 2 gentlemen, Bob Hill and Brian Volker. They spoke to our club at the Gall House. That was during my year. We had some pictures that we showed. We had a banner of this place. We hadn't purchased any property. We had a plan. We had raised a little money, but not enough to start building. We had a staff of 1, and we had the hopes of putting this in place by 2019. Well, here we are, 2019. We bought the property, which in itself is an incredible story, because it was 135 parcels that we had to lump together under one umbrella, and I believe that took 5 or 6 years to do that. We have this tremendous staff of 8. We have this beautiful building. There have been a couple things along the road. You know, as with every project, things change. We've had 2 things that I wanted to point out. I hope everybody saw the water wall that we had a donor that put that in. I encourage you to come at night because the sun sets over the city. You can see it through the water wall, and it is spectacular. I mean, if you haven't checked it out, please do so. And then also the new fountain that Roland Jones, the sculptor, unveiled this week. It's a pollinator sculpture. I had to look that up on Google to find out what that meant. It's fantastic, but please check that out. So we had some new things that popped along. There's going to be a couple more announcements very soon about some new exciting things. So it's really going places, and we're really excited. What else was I going to say? So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a video that kind of gives you a detail of about 160 years worth of history in about 3 minutes. It's fascinating, but this is an incredible Renaissance story. When you watch the video, I want you to remember that we're not sitting up on a hill back in 1840 when this story begins. We're level to the ground. There's no expressway, there's no flood wall. The Beargrass Creek, which is there, that didn't exist at the time. That was going down 4th Street. So this land was once a beautiful area of town. It had some bad luck, became a landfill, became an eyesore, and now, because of the work of all these people, it's become this beautiful landmark. So we're proud as heck, as you can tell, of this building, and more and more to come. So video, is it ready? Here we go.
The site for the Waterfront Botanical Gardens lies within the boundaries of one of Louisville's oldest areas, known as the Point. In the early days, the Point was populated with the antebellum summer homes of prosperous French families from New Orleans who came north to escape the heat. Over time, the Point evolved as a working-class neighborhood, a mixture of small factories and mills, green cottages, and small brick homes. Adding to the character, shanty boats were often parked along Beargrass Creek nearby. Christian Heigl immigrated to Kentucky in the 1850s and built a house in the Ohio Street neighborhood. Following the devastating floods of 1937 and the early 1940s, the Heigl house was the only house left standing. Mayor Charles Farnsley saved the facade of the house to preserve the original style of the neighborhood, but sadly, the remaining area was condemned and became the Ohio Street dump. Because trash transported to the dump often contained ash and hot coals from coal-burning fireplaces, the Ohio Street dump frequently caught fire and would smolder for days. When I-71 was completed in the late 1960s, the proximity of the dump made it an unattractive gateway to the city, and in 1973, the Ohio Street dump closed. An 8-year, multi-step closing plan was initiated in order to meet public health requirements and stringent EPA rules for filling and stabilizing the site. Water runoff, gas release, and soil testing have been performed since the 1980s and show the area to be stable. Although there are no pollutants that are harmful to visitors, the site is under a management plan with the Energy and Environment Cabinet of Kentucky to properly manage the garbage and cap any exposed areas. Botanic Inc. was formed as a non-profit organization to build a botanical garden for Louisville. In the early 2000s, Botanical approached the city about acquiring the 23-acre site. A development agreement was forged between the two parties, and the volunteer board of directors began to research the 135 deeds in the neighborhood. The goal was to consolidate them into one deed so that Botanica could purchase the property. That research took 6 years. Finally, in 2017, Botanica purchased the site from the city of Louisville for $1 with the intent and restriction to build a botanical garden. In 2014, Botanica Inc. hired architects Perkins and Will to design a master plan for the site. With this new master plan, fundraising began in order to raise an estimated $65 million for the 3-phase project. In 2019, the organization officially changed its name to the Waterfront Botanical Gardens and will open the Grazer Family Education Center and surrounding gardens in October 2019. Fundraising and continued development of this project is essential in order to show visitors what an urban botanical garden can do to promote education, economic development, and neighborhood revitalization on the site of a former landfill. This is where we began. We are the Waterfront Botanical Gardens, and this is where we grow.
Pretty good. What's up, Bob Hill? Good narrates that. I love the line about how they came here to escape the heat. Did you all catch that? Wow. Okay, so now let me hand this off to Casey Mayer. I've known Casey since what, 1975? Oh, I'm sorry, 1995, excuse me. And she has done an incredible job of taking all these spinning wheels and putting it together. By the way, our ribbon cutting is tomorrow at 8:30. The gala ball is tomorrow night. I mean, this has been a big week, and she has handled it with grace and calmness, which is an amazing task. And so I give you Casey Mayer.
So if you're coming to the ribbon cutting tomorrow, you might want to get here by 8:30, but it actually starts at 9. So it'll be between 9 and 10. So what I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of background of the organization and some of the fundraising, and I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Burghardt, who's going to tell you what's going on outside right now. So the high gold facade sits right in the middle of Frankfurt Avenue, and the organization Botanical was started in the 90s. The reason we're able to stand here today is because this initial donation came in after Helen Harrigan died in 1999. She was one of the members of Botanica. So she left a $1.5 million trust to build a botanical garden for Louisville. So the point of what I'm saying is just the believers, what we call the believers, the people who believed in the project and really stepped up to it. Years later, Emil and Nancy Grazer got involved. Their first donation, I think, was in 2010, and I think it was $20. It eventually totaled $2.5 million, which is why this building was named for them. Their family is still very involved with us. In 2015, we lost Mary Lee Duthie. Her husband, George Duthie, came to us and said he wanted to donate some money in memory of his wife for a garden. So the gardens around the building are named in Mary Lee Duthie Gardens. This feels like it's going in and out, is it? All right, we're good. In 2016, Sam Shine just about handed me $1 million check at a luncheon. I thought, hey, fundraising's pretty cool. I'm gonna keep doing this. This stuff's easy. And it is easy, because this year we found out, just actually about a month ago, found out that we're a recipient of a $5 million bequest from a woman named Ellen Leslie, who we weren't really involved in. She was involved with. She did know about the project, and she would drive by to see what was going on. She left us $5 million, so pretty sweet. Brings our total to $16 million raised. Brand new sign outside, in case you didn't notice when you came in. We're all pretty excited. So what $16 million does for us is we will be able to finish phase 1. What you're seeing outside is some of phase 1, not all of it. We still have the Beargrass Creek overlook to build, the Beargrass Creek pathway. The bed out here will be a water feature, a fountain, and there'll be a classroom, greenhouse, and workshop. So those things aren't built yet. We're hoping to build those next year and then set our sights on phase 2. Like Greg said, there's a pretty big announcement coming on Friday. I can't spill the beans because it's tomorrow morning, but we have a lot of exciting things, and we're going to continue to move forward. So because of the community and the believers, as well as all the foundations that have helped us, the state of Kentucky, we're moving this project along. So just some brief pictures here. There's the site. Here we are looking toward the west. And the master plan, as you saw, with some of the pictures, that's phase 1. Phase 2 will be the visitor center. Phase 3 will be the conservatory, and then all the gardens that go around that. So the site looking west, and this is when we started construction back in 2017. So Dr. LeVar was at the groundbreaking and said a prayer for us that day. So here we are 2 years later. And here's the building. So we've come a long way. In 2 years, we've come a long way. In 20 years since Helen Harrigan left her first gift. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie, because he's the guy who's not only building, helping to build a garden on a landfill, he's planting a garden in a drought. So let's hear from him.
Thank you, Casey. Good afternoon. I would like to mention that I did accept the Greg Braun Speaker's Lunch Challenge, and I got the sloppiest food possible, and I came through with not anything on my blazer or shirt. Right, so there are both native and non-native plants that will be showcased here as we kick off our plant collection. Here's a couple of the examples. As you walked in from the parking lot, We did go buy some Persian ironwood, as well as a paperbark maple out by the sign on Frankfurt Avenue. We also have some native trees. Black gum in the lower right is known for its bright red foliage in the fall. And the Carolina silverbell, even though it does have that name, it is native to Kentucky, and it has small white flowers in the springtime. Other native shrubs, spicebush, as well as the dwarf Virginia sweetspire. And of course, grasses, switchgrass, and little blue stem. A lot of those are being put in the ground today out by the water wall with our volunteers. And everyone wants seasonal color. These are perennials that have gone in around the Mary Lee Duffy Gardens. The cranesbill, the beautiful blue violet, the red star hibiscus, and then yellow coneflower. You might be very familiar with the purple coneflower, but you didn't probably realize that there is a natural yellow flowering form. More beautiful flowers. And the red false yucca, which is in the bottom right-hand corner, that is in the parking lot. And that will attract hummingbirds, because those are red tubular flowers, which hummingbirds love. So here's a picture of our nursery out at the Avish. We have a partnership with the Pose, in which we do our programming out at their formal gardens and greenhouses. And because we had that extra space, we were receiving plant plugs, both at the Avish and at Bob Hill's Hidden Hill Nursery in Utica. And we're growing them out in anticipation of planting them here at the Botanical Gardens. Here's the site. This is actually in the middle of the pollinator garden. On top of those rocks is where the bronze sculpture is today. One of the biggest challenges on top of a former landfill is the soil. I don't know if you realize this, but soil is a living ecosystem. Everyone knows about earthworms, but if you took a teaspoon of topsoil, there would be over probably 5 to 10 billion microbes in that teaspoon of soil. And those microbes are the machines that help take carbon and nitrogen out of the atmosphere and make it available to plants. And that's what keeps our helps keep our planet functioning well. So we want to make sure that our soils here are functioning as best as possible. With construction, we get a lot of compaction right around the building. Because there is concrete and gravel, because of the structural integrity of the building, we decided that we really can't amend that. So we took that gravel out, as you can see here. And here you see about 16 to 18 inches of that gravel was removed. And then we added topsoil, 80% topsoil, 20% organic matter. That is the basis for us to be putting our plants in, at least around the building. And here's another shot of the plaza. And then topsoil is added, ready for planting. So there was a lot of compaction on the site. It wasn't the native soil. Obviously, lots of soil from all over the region was put on top of to cap the city dump back in the 1980s. We don't know where that came from, and we didn't know how deep or thick it was. It ranged from 12 inches to 36 inches. Before construction started, we actually scraped off that topsoil, and we set it to the side that hopefully that we could reuse it. Unfortunately, it was very low in nitrogen, very high in phosphorus, all the things that most people cringe when it comes to creating a garden. The soil was not ideal for plants. So in order to make it better for plants, we employed a procedure called fracturing, or more nice referred to as the scoop and dump. So there you see the compacted soil, the clay soil that we put back after construction, and that is coarse compost. That compost, there you can see the different textures of it. It had wood as well as well decomposed compost already, and that was spread 6 to 8 inches deep across the compacted soil surface. And then with a backhoe, the loader just went down and scooped, lifted, and dumped. And that allowed any of the hard, massive pieces of compacted clay to kind of crumble away. And that organic matter actually trickled down amongst those soil particles, and that would allow microbes as well as air and water to that'll infiltrate down into the soil surface. And here is the after picture of fracturing, where you see that there's organic matter incorporated into that formerly compacted clay soil. And here's a picture of the volunteers. Scores of volunteers gave us hundreds of hours putting plants in, pretty much from September 10th onward. And we still have plans to go this afternoon, so if you would like to skip out of work, I have a couple of things you can help us with. then here's a picture of the plaza. Right now we have an annual display. Feel free to go out and look at that before you depart. There are lots of pollinators, lots of skippers and butterflies, and of course bumblebees are out there right now. And another view of the building. Of course, here's the water wall. Interesting fact, anyone want to guess how many nozzles there are that create the water wall effect? Anyone?
126.
Higher. Not quite 1,000. It's 247 nozzles. And there is an anemometer on it. And when the wind goes above 10 miles an hour, it does stop the water from coming down. Otherwise, it spills onto the plants or the plaza. But it is a very beautiful feature. Do you have any questions? Excellent, I'm glad you've understood.
Further amendment to the soil as you were planting?
Will there be further amendment to the soil as we're planting? Yes and no. When we are planting, we are not adding additional amendments because we want the plants to reach out their roots into kind of a consistent soil. You don't want to put amendments right into the soil around the plant because then the roots only go out into that really perfect soil. We're only putting organic matter on the top, and we're kickstarting the microbes by using horse pellets. The alfalfa actually kickstarts microbial activity as well as gives a little boost of nitrogen.
Last time I checked, we had rain like back in 2016. So, how has that impacted what you've been doing?
The question was about, the impact of lack of rain. It's been difficult, although we do have irrigation. Really what's been challenging right now is the heat and the wind. The wind is what's drying out a lot of our plants much more quickly because the sun right now is not very intense. It's just that drying heat. And so we are both hand watering and limiting our use of the irrigation because we don't want to over irrigate, and so that clay soil turns into kind of a mucky soup. So that's been the biggest challenge. We are having to water to make sure that things are not flagging or wilting. But we still may lose some plants just because we are planting fairly late in the growing season.
Actually, a question for Casey, from a fundraising perspective. 16 million is a huge number. Also, I noticed those are totally different last names. I mean, Louisville's a relatively small community. If you're in the philanthropic, industry, you see a lot of the same names again and again. So the new names, I mean, obviously you're and Elizabeth, great stellar work. What do you attribute that to? Why? Why these new names? And it's encouraging.
When I got involved back in 2013, my goal was to make the community aware of the project. So much like the Kentucky College of Art and Design, it was a brand new project. We had to do it from the ground up. So we've really focused in getting everybody involved. I don't think that we need to be going back to the same names all the time, and I don't think they want us knocking on their door. We want this to be a community project. And it's pretty moving, actually. Between today and tomorrow, it's going to be really hard for us to keep the tears inside because it really has become a community project, and it's really wowing me. And it's to your point that these are people who are passionate about the project out there. They've made money in their life, and they have money, and they want to help us. And it's because they really believe in it. So we have probably 1,500 to 1,800 donors a year, and that's from the $5 donor all the way up. And that's a lot of people giving money. We're not going to just 3 top donors and saying, give us a big chunk of change. So they've all come out of the trees themselves, if you know what I'm saying. I didn't ask any of them for money. I didn't go and say, would you give us a donation? Not any of these big, any of the big donors. They've come to us because they believe in the project. So that just tells me we're doing a pretty good job of getting it out there and getting people to understand. And we knew that we had to build this building and these gardens so that they could understand what a botanical garden is. And they're coming to us because they believe that they know it's important for Louisville. Did that really answer? I mean, I didn't seek them out. They're there and they see it and they're around us, and they're around us every day. And when I tell my staff all the time, and we make presentations a lot, I just say, you never know who's in the room. It's not the people you think it is. It's somebody else in the room. So, yes, Alice.
Can you talk about what you envision as the economic impact of a botanical garden for Louisville and how they compare to our peer cities in not having this asset in the past?
Yeah, so my understanding is that we're the, probably, maybe not the only, but one of very few cities of our size that doesn't have an urban botanical garden. Of course, we do have Udall Gardens, the next county over, and it's very close. But obviously, we're very close to downtown. In terms of size, and I'll kind of get to everything, but people ask about size a lot. We're 23 acres. That's a pretty reasonable size for an urban botanical garden. So Brooklyn Botanical Garden, Naples, Denver, those are all 23 acres. Atlanta's a 31-acre botanical garden. In terms of economic impact, we haven't had a study done recently. Part of the problem with paying for a big study and trying to be good stewards of the money is that time goes on and things change. There was a feasibility study done back in '08 for this project. And things have changed a lot. Yeah, I was right about '08. Changed a lot, obviously, since '08. And what they said then was that they projected when fully built, it would be 200,000 visitors a year. And then when, the other interesting point was, when people visit a city, if there's a botanical garden there, they stay a day and a half longer. So obviously, economic impact, I can't tell you exactly what those numbers are. When fully built on that 200,000 visitor number, the Atlanta Botanical Garden, 31 acres, obviously a bigger city, 750,000 visitors a year. So, you know, we're hoping to get it fully built. We can bring people to Louisville. People do tour just to see botanical gardens, and it will definitely have an economic impact. As we move this further along and start heading to phase 2, I would like to get more feasibility and economic numbers put together, but just so, you know, so that we know the time frame. It's kind of hard to say, well, we're going to build this someday, so what's the economic impact? That doesn't make any sense. Do you want to add anything to that? Questions? Yeah.
What would you say to potential visitor about what you're going to be able to see and how you're going to be there and why come to this fabulous place?
Well, having worked at several botanical gardens that are large in size, you know, over 200 employees, and then compared to smaller ones, what's very unique about the site is the history. I'm a history buff, and I was blown away about the history that is beneath us. So you've got that level, and then we are, you know, we're doing something regenerative. We're taking back a brownfield into something other than, say, an athletic field or just a field or an old woodland. The plants here in Louisville, I mean, we're the northernmost southern city. So that means horticulturally, we have plants that people associate with the deep south, and we have plants that people associate with the north. And here's the perfect kind of hybrid of the two. So you're seeing the blend of north and south, and in a beautiful area of the country in the Ohio River Valley. It's very exciting from that standpoint, not only our historical, our story from a historical standpoint, but also what we've done to the former dump, which is very exciting, and I think that will pique people's curiosity and just be excited about what we're doing here in Louisville.
So when you come to a botanical garden, obviously you're seeing display, and you're learning when you come here. Environmental education is our mission. However, I see this as a huge cultural asset. So somebody, one of your friends might say, well, I don't care that much about going and seeing the pretty plants, but would they come for a concert? Would they hear the orchestra? Would they see the ballet? Would they come for a speaker or a kids fair? Yeah, there's a lot of reasons you'd come to the botanical garden, and we're already doing a lot of that kind of programming and events to get people up here in the community. So it's a cultural asset for this city, and a lot will be going on. But the baseline is environmental education. Yes, Charlie?
Do you have plans for a greenhouse for indoor plants, tropical plants?
So the question is, do we have plans for a greenhouse for indoor plants? Yes, as we build out, we are looking to have production greenhouses that would allow us to grow plants, our own annual flowers to start, etc. But also the conservatory. There is no conservatory in the state of Kentucky, and a conservatory is an oversized greenhouse or a glass house that allows us to grow plants from other parts of the world that would not normally survive in our climate. And that is part of phase 3. So we are looking forward to having something, a crystal cathedral, so to speak, high on the property.
And I'll just put my plug in there, so I do this whenever I can. There's an impound lot right over there, car impound lot. You all might know about that. We would love to have at least part of that land for backup greenhouses and teaching gardens. because we can access via the Butchertown Greenway and Frankfurt Avenue. So we would love to be able to have greenhouses over on the impound lot. Just putting that out there. Terry?
Have you had any problem getting the fees that you need?
Have we had any problems getting the bees that we need? The day that I brought the first truckload of plants up here, within 30 seconds of me lugging it across the plaza, there were bumblebees on it. It was amazing how quickly, I don't know if they smell, see, there's a memo going out, but those guys found it, and I was making sure that I wasn't, flopping around all of a sudden I'm getting slapped on the side of the face and then getting a bee sting. But it was surprising how quickly nature came back once we started putting plants in.
Memo go out by carrot pigeon. If you look at this annual garden when you go out, just look closely, the one right outside the door with all the color is covered in bees, covered. The other thing is the sculpture is a mister, it's a pollinator fountain, and it's designed and intended to attract the pollinators. And about a week or so ago, we were testing the water. As soon as we tested it, there was a bumblebee, a butterfly, and a dragonfly, just like, right. So they're starving, they're looking for it. So yeah, I think we'll have a problem. Back there?
Yeah, you said you look to expand east towards the impound lot. What about expanding west towards the other dump that's down on the other end of the western part of this?
So east would be where the Edith Avenue is, yeah, and this one's south. We're not planning to expand this way, because we probably won't go that far. There is land across Beargrass Creek. Someday it would be great. That's another thing I'll put out into the universe. It'd be great to have a boardwalk through there. It's a floodplain area. It would be wonderful to have that to be a natural area. I don't know in my lifetime that we'll ever get all the way to Edith Avenue. Charlie?
I'm a little bit confused. How can a bronze statue of a pollinator attract honey?
It's a pose.
Did anybody get that on camera? I'm glad he did it. It has, there's two water heads behind it that miss the water out behind. So it goes on once an hour for about 10 minutes and shoots out water. The other cool thing about it, if you go outside afterwards and look at it, there's two huge rocks under it. Those rocks came from Nina Bonnie's farm. She called Bob Hill and asked if we wanted. They have these amazing divots, so they hold water. So they're like mini bird baths and bumblebee baths.
It's the water.
It's the water, yes, not the sculpture. It's the water, yes. And the plants are surrounded by pollinator plants. John?
Yeah, I have a question, because you're in kind of this urban area, and we have Bernheim to the west and south, and we have Udall Gardens, and we probably have something in southern Indiana that Bob Hill's farm. Is there any sort of, it's a huge economic draw, it seems like, these three major principles. Is there going to be any programming where you all work together and in any kind of, because I think you all have three different visions, really, that are very critical.
Relatable, yes. So we already do, I work with Mark Worms and Paul Cagnillo a lot. We talk a lot, especially with Paul, about running a nonprofit, just the basics of the business of running a nonprofit, event space, that kind of thing. In the programming, yes, we would like to collaborate. We don't want to duplicate. I also work with Kent Lanham and Scott Martin, who are doing the River Heritage Conservancy land over there, so all related. So the first thing is that we don't duplicate. The second thing is that we collaborate, and we are regenerating the conversation from years ago of having a consortium of all these green entities and to share problems as well as ideas, and I'm very excited about that. I definitely want to be part of that. So someday, the gardens, when they're built, will have a ticket, and the idea is that you would come here and get your ticket and say, here's your ticket to Bernheim and Udall, and here's how you get there. I don't know if we'll get to a shuttle, but just encouraging people. One of the things that I've learned on this project and through the time I've been working on it is we have amazing green entities right here, and I really don't think we market it well enough for the rest of the country. because you can come to your estate gardens, or you can go to Bernheim and Udall and Southern Indiana, not to mention all the rest, Cave Hill Cemetery, Creasy May Nature Preserve, on and on and on. So, and we're very livable, we're very mobile here because it's not a huge city and the traffic is decent. You can get anywhere in 20 minutes. So, yes, we focus on that very closely. Great, Chairman.
Discuss a little bit about naming opportunities, because every one of these pillars is $10,000. What other naming opportunities do you have since you have $45 million to go?
I don't think I'm supposed to really push that, but I will tell you what has happened. And if you're interested in talking to anyone, Elizabeth Chandler's in the red dress. You can't miss her, so see her afterwards. But anyway, just if you're curious, when we were raising money to build this, yes, the Grazers gave us money and Sam Shine gave us money, but we needed more. We learned that there were 99 pillars on this building, so we decided to sell them for sponsorship. So we did. They were $10,000 a piece, and we sold them all. The last one was in April, and so that helped pay for the building. But there are other opportunities. There's bricks in the pathway, and I think there's a bench, and it's on and on and up. But I'm not going to push that. See me later. Oh yeah.
Question about irrigation, and are we looking at sources other than city water? Potentially. Right now, we are getting it through city water, whether or not, because of the nature of the dump and stability and all of those kinds of issues, whether or not it's to our advantage to drill to do our own irrigation well or trying to reclaim water off the roof. Those are possibilities in the future, but at this point, it is just city water. And natural rainfall, if it ever returns.
Any other questions today? Yeah.
We can debate the cause, but it seems like there is climate change happening. Are you taking that into consideration if it gets permanently warmer and hotter?
So the question or the comment was made about climate change, and I studied horticulture and worked at Botanical Gardens, and what opened my eyes was this whole this discipline called soil health science. And researchers across the world have recognized that because of our agricultural techniques in which we are not putting organic matter back into our farm soils and we're using chemicals, man-made chemicals, we are actually allowing more carbon to stay in the atmosphere. And as I was looking into that, one of the things that we can do here as we're trying to improve our soil is that carbon and nitrogen that normally is released back into the atmosphere when we use man-made chemicals, pesticides, and fertilizers, by keeping organic matter and healthy microbes in the soil, potentially we can actually offset all of the carbon dioxide that has happened since the industrial era. The statistic was if 5 to 7% of all the agricultural lands across the world, if they all changed back to kind of the regenerative type of agriculture in which they till in, the crop residue, that would start micro growth and locking carbon and nitrogen back into the soil. That is what would offset the carbon dioxide that's now in the atmosphere since the industrial revolutions began. So if you look on YouTube, look up regenerative agriculture, look up soil health science, there's so much research that has pretty much blossomed since the mid-1990s. And they're finding more and more amazing things that we've just overlooked our soil, and we've looked too much into man-made solutions rather than what nature has been doing for millennia.
Don't make him go down that rabbit hole. He's a smart guy. You want to talk to him more. He knows a lot. Any other questions today? I hope you all saved a couple of minutes to walk through the gardens. We're so excited you're here today, and I hope you all come back soon. Thank you so much.
Well, that was a terrific program. Let's give them another round of applause. This is a wonderful achievement for the city. Okay, we're about ready to adjourn. 2 or 3 quick reminders. Next week we'll be back at the Muhammad Ali Center downtown. Secondly, That was the person who gave us the blessing. Okay. All right. Secondly, if we have any guests today that are interested in membership, please stay for a couple minutes to the and visit with us at the Rotary table in the back with Craig Sherman. And then third, if you know of anybody, a business colleague, a friend who would be a good member of this club, we've got a great membership campaign going. Please bring them in. So with that, we're adjourned.